Before psychology tried to name her, before self-help tried to explain her, before femininity became content, they knew her. They called her Aphrodite. And people have always been entranced by her. Not just because she was beautiful, not because men desired her, not because she had power through seduction. No, people found Aphrodite intoxicating because she embodied an ancient and primal truth, the force that makes life worth living. And that force still moves throughout us today. Hello there, lovely. It's Gata, and welcome to my corner of the internet. Here, I like to talk about feminine psychology, historical figures, and archetypal patterns that shape the way that we move through the world, and how you can take those lessons and apply them to create a life you really love. If that sounds like your kind of conversation, I invite you to pull up a chair and dive in with me. Also, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you're into this sort of thing. A quick note before we begin. Greek mythology is well known for being a bit dramatic, chaotic, messy, and slightly unhinged. While there are many versions of the myths that I'm going to be diving into more today, I'm going to be focusing on the versions that best highlight Aphrodite as an embodiment of the lover archetype. Now, let's begin where she did. It's a beautiful day off the coast of Cyprus. Waves roll in against the shoreline. Ocean brine perfumes the air. Sunlight scatters diamonds across the water. All seems calm. But beneath the surface, something world-changing is taking place. The Titan Kronos has just overpowered his primordial father, Uranus. And in the chaos of that violent shift in power, he's cast off a very important piece of Uranus's body into the ocean. And from that violence came sea foam. And from the foam came movement. And from that movement came form. A fully embodied woman emerged from the sea. Golden hair wrapped around her body in the sea breeze. She stood upon a luminous shell as though the ocean itself had carried her forward. She looked around and felt it all. The warmth of the sun, the scent of the air, the feeling of the water as it splashed against her skin. And upon feeling all of these incredible sensations, she smiled. Because if there was one thing that Aphrodite understood from the very beginning, it's that life is meant to be experienced. The world would come to know her by many names. The goddess of love, beauty, desire, temptation. But those names are too small for what she really was. Because you see, Aphrodite wasn't just a goddess. She was the embodiment of a principle. She was desire given form, beauty personified, pleasure with a pulse. She wasn't born like the other gods had been and shaped by her experiences. She emerged a full-grown woman, fully formed, whole, ready to awaken something in everyone she met. And that's why Aphrodite remains one of the best examples of the lover archetype. Not just shallow romance, not attention-seeking, not performance, but the pure, unadulterated feeling of being alive. It didn't take long for Aphrodite to completely unsettle Olympus, because desire is powerful, even among the gods. And soon came one of the best examples of Aphrodite's effortless magnetism, the Judgement of Paris. A golden apple was strategically released at a divine wedding on Mount Olympus. Inscribed in the apple were 3 simple words that would change everything. To the fairest. And immediately, tension bloomed. Zeus's wife, Hera, the queen of Olympus, naturally stepped forward first. She picked up the apple and inspected it, graciously thanking whoever had brought it to the party. As Hera lifted the apple to her lips, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, stepped forward. Athena tried to calmly reason with Hera and explain to her that if we're talking fairness in terms of justice and reason, then clearly the golden apple was meant for her. So Athena steps forward and reaches her arm out to take the apple from Hera. But as she does so, the crowd gets silent. Aphrodite quietly steps forward from the crowd. No argument, no speech, no performance. Her presence alone speaks for itself. There would be no arguing amongst the gods that Aphrodite certainly was deserving of an apple inscribed to the fairest on Olympus. Her very presence spoke for itself. She shifted the room when she walked into it. And that kind of power, although often underrated, is incredibly important. Not the power of domination, not the power of intellect, but the power of presence. So Aphrodite approaches the other two goddesses, gliding as if she was floating on a cloud. Tension hung thick like fog in the air. Each of the three goddesses believed that she was the rightful recipient of this golden apple. There was only one person on Olympus that was worthy of judging this contest, Zeus himself. But even Zeus knew better than to weigh in on this argument. He was trapped. He knew there was no way that he could pick one of these goddesses without gravely offending the other two. So he did what many leaders do when faced with an impossible task. He outsourced. Instead of making the call himself, Zeus left the final decision in the hands of a mortal man, Prince Paris of Troy. So each goddess approached Paris and made him a tempting offer. Regal Hera stepped forward first. The Queen of Olympus offered him power, dominance, rulership over all of Europe and Asia. Wise Athena was next. The renowned strategist, defender of heroes, offered Paris glory, wisdom in battle, and the power of all of Greece's greatest heroes. True to form, Aphrodite went last and let her gifts speak for themselves. She slowly sauntered over to Paris, brushing a hair out of his face. She bent down and whispered in his ear, barely audible. Once again, there was no big fuss, no show. She didn't need it. She was confident in what she was offering to the young prince, the love of the most beautiful woman in all the world. And Paris chose her because Aphrodite understood something timeless, that there are few forces more compelling than desire. The healthy lover doesn't chase. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't exhaust herself trying to prove her worth to others. She knows what she carries. Aphrodite's magnetism wasn't just her beauty. All three goddesses were divinely beautiful. But what set her apart was that she was fully embodied. She was connected to herself, to pleasure, to confidence, to the feeling of being alive. And that type of energy is magnetic because people enjoy being around someone who enjoys being within themselves. But Aphrodite's victory came at a cost because the woman she'd promised to Paris, Helen of Sparta, was already married. And the fallout from Paris taking claim of Helen like she was some sort of prize became the stuff of legend, the Trojan War. Naturally, blame found its way to Aphrodite. She was accused of causing chaos, of breaking hearts and manipulating emotions, destroying kingdoms through vanity. And this blame of Aphrodite really highlights one of the oldest misunderstandings of the lover archetype. People who don't fully understand it will try to reduce it, to minimize it. They call it shallow, frivolous, manipulative, dangerous. But desire itself isn't the problem. Misused desire is. We see this even now. People reduce beauty. They ignore sensuality. They minimize feminine magnetism. But desire is so much bigger than romance. People can have a desire for healing, for growth, a desire for meaning, or a desire for a different life. Desire is so often that first spark for transformation. It's the force that makes someone finally leave, or finally begin, or finally choose themselves. Aphrodite embodied love in all its forms, including grief. And perhaps nowhere is that more evident than in the myth of Adonis. This is one of those myths that has a lot of different versions out there. But one thing that they all agree on is that he was beautiful, devastatingly so. The kind of beauty that makes people, and yes, even the gods, pause. Aphrodite in particular, who always took notice of something beautiful when it bloomed, loved him deeply. And he loved her too. Not because she wanted to possess his beauty like everyone else did, but because she knew how to cherish it. These two were completely enraptured with each other. But Adonis was mortal, and one day he was killed while out on a hunt. Aphrodite rushed to him, gently cradling the head of the man that she loved. And in that moment, she faced one of the most painful truths of love. And that's the fact that loving something means opening yourself up to losing it. But this is where she reveals the highest expression of the lover archetype. She didn't let the grief harden her. She transformed it. From the places where Adonis's blood touched the earth, Aphrodite made flowers bloom. Beauty from sorrow, life from pain, meaning from loss. That is the lover energy in its most mature, embodied form. The lover archetype is not just about romance. It's about falling in love with your life. All of it. The joyful seasons, the uncertain seasons, the heartbreaks, the losses, the rebirths. Because everything that you experience becomes a part of you. An embodied lover feels deeply, but she doesn't drown in those emotions. She allows the pain to move through her system and turns it into wisdom, art, gratitude, and depth. She becomes more beautiful, more magnetic, and more herself through everything that she survived. Aphrodite beautifully illustrates what a healthy, embodied lover can be. She takes whatever life throws her way and turns it into something meaningful. Things always seem to work out for her because that's the lens through which she views her own life. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of examples of Aphrodite living in the shadow side of the lover archetype too. Jealousy, comparison, self-focus, emotional chaos when untethered. And in our modern day, we do that too. We chase stimulation instead of sensation. We perform our lives instead of experiencing them. We look for love on the outside instead of cultivating those feelings within ourselves. But Aphrodite reminds us that it's not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to those things that make you feel alive. The sunlight on your skin, the meal you actually taste, the room you soften by entering, the art that moves you, the desire that points you toward the life you want to live. True allure is often the byproduct of aliveness, not effort. And when we embody a healthy lover archetype, we become emotional alchemists. We're able to take whatever it is that life throws at us and turn it into something beautiful. If you're still here, thank you so much for joining me today. I love getting to sit down and have these chats with you every week. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments because this one's a little bit polarizing. When you think of Aphrodite, do you envision that divine feminine goddess, or does she live more in the shadow side of the lover? I'm very interested to see what you have to say. If you're interested in diving deeper into what the lover archetype looks like in our modern day, I've got a video for you that I will link on screen now. So I'll catch you over there, or I'll just see you next time. Until then, take care of yourself. Bye, lovely.